Hey guys, this is Ross, and I am going to teach you CSS today because well, actually 2 days ago, I taught you HTML, and I sat down to make this lesson about 3 or 4 different times last night, and stuff kept coming up. So I'm making it now. As you can see, I made a basic HTML page because we are going to be styling an HTML website today. When I say styling, I mean we're going to be making it look different than just plain HTML. So I'm going to show you what this site looks like right now. It's pretty ugly. It's got a heading, it's got a paragraph, it's got another paragraph, it's got a little down pointing arrow, it's got another heading, and then it's got a bulleted list of some links to my content, YouTube, Facebook group, Code Accelerator course. Anyway, let's go through this code a little bit so you know what's going on, and then we'll jump into CSS. Alright, first off, we've got our opening HTML tag. Let me zoom in a bit. We've got our opening HTML tag. I'm sure you're familiar with that by now. We've got the head tag. If you recall, everything in the head tags is stuff the browser needs to know about, but stuff the user who's using your website doesn't need to see. Okay, except this title right here. This shows up right in this tab, as you can see that CSS lesson. Now, down here, I have a link tag, and up here I have a description about what it's doing, okay? The link tag is used to import a document. In this case, it has a little rel property, right? The rel stands for relation. And in this case, our relation is a style sheet. The rel specifies the type of file that is being imported, and this type of file, a CSS file, is called a style sheet, okay? Then we have the word href, which you probably remember from when we make links. Href stands for hypertext reference, okay? And it shows the location of the file that we're linking to, okay? So this little line right here is actually pulling a different file of code that we're about to write into our website. And then we have our body, which, as you recall, is where we put the code that is most important to that's actually going to show up to people. And then I have some explanations for what else is going on in here. We have our header tag. The header just tells the browser and search engines where the introductory information is. Then we have our content tag, and this tells the browser and search engines where the main and important information is. And as you can see, this is where my paragraphs are. Remember this down arrow I showed you right here? Well, the code for that is ampersand DARR semicolon. You don't have to memorize things like that. Very easy to look up. Then you see I have some random shapes listed, and these are nothing more but the div HTML elements. But I gave them classes, which are a CSS thing. Basically, when you give well, first let me tell you what a div is in case you're not familiar. A div is a layout element. You can separate content by dividing it into divs, hence the word div for divide. Basically, if you have a few things that you want to keep separate from each other instead of crashing into each other all the time in your code, you put them in divs. So this one could say A, and this one could say B. And instead of getting AB, the browser sees them like this, A space B. And it doesn't work quite like that, but when we start styling, you'll see the difference. Now I'm going to explain classes a little bit. A class is a group that this element belongs to, okay? This tag is in a group of shape, okay? This one also is in a group of shape. That means when I am writing my CSS code, if I say something about the class shape, it's going to apply to this and to this one and to this one. It's going to apply to all three. Whereas then I have other things like the word square, the word rectangle, the word circle. These aren't sharing any of these classes. So if I say something about shapes square, it's not going to apply here. It's not going to apply here, only here. Anyway, we'll get into that. I have another heading, just this one right here, links to my stuff, and then of course I have the links to my stuff. So I say we just get started. We've imported our CSS file, and the first thing I want to do is show you how easy it is to make a radical change on your website using just CSS. So let me open the CSS file, style.css. Okay. Actually, what I'm going to start with is telling you what CSS stands for. CSS stands for Cascading style sheets. That's correct. Style sheets is one word. It's actually like that, but it's called CSS, so I capitalize that S. Okay. Cascading style sheets. So exciting. I could get into why it's called that, but instead, let's just start learning. First thing I want to do is I want to show you how we don't have to have all our text up against the left top corner, right? We can center it. Now, the way we use CSS is we select an HTML element and we tell it how we want it to behave. Okay, so if you look at our HTML code, elements we have head, HTML, head, title, we're not really going to style that. We have body, we have header, H1, content, P, div, we have our classes, H3, UL, LI, A. So those are all things we can select. This time, I want to style what people are seeing, and I want to style all of it. Instead of just styling this, I want to style every single thing on the page. So let's choose body. We're going to style the body, and it's going to apply the styling that we write to everything inside of it. All right, so all we have to write is the word body, and then we do some curly braces. Okay, and let's see here. Let's just change this font. Okay, this is called serif font. As you can see, it's got little tabs and ticks on the end of each letter, and we're going to turn that off. So when we say it's sans serif, that means it's without serifs, and it's going to look way different. Okay, so I'm just going to say font family, and I'm going to say sans-serif. Okay, I'm going to save that. Do you see how different that looks already? It's very smooth, very much more professional looking. Okay, now we're going to center it. Okay, all I'm going to write is text-align center. Boom. All of our text is sans serif. All of our text is centered in the page. That is all it took. We used 2 lines of code, 1, 2, and we have completely centered. We have completely changed the look of our website in just 2 lines of code, but we can do more. We can even change the whole color of this white ugly background right now. Okay, all we have to use is the background color property, and we can say whatever we want. We can make it really ugly by saying red, or maybe we could choose something cool. Let's see here. There's a color picker. If I hover over this, it's going to show me a color picker. Let's just that's okay. No, that's not okay. That's ugly. I'm going to choose a very light gray. Yeah. Yo. I'm going to change her. There we go. We're going to choose this gray. It's very light. Okay? You almost can't tell that it's not white. Okay, what I want to do now is I want to change oh, you see how there's a space above this? I don't want there to be a space above this. There is a margin. Every time you make a website, it puts a little margin of 8 pixels around everything so that it's not crashing into the top. And that's great, but I honestly hate it. So I'm going to turn that off. I'm going to say margin is no longer 8 pixels, it's 0. And now you can see this is way closer to the top. It's right up against the top when I highlight it. And oh, see that highlight color? I can show you a little trick right now to change that color. Let's see here. I'm going to go to the top. I'm going to write selection. I'm going to say background color. And let's see here. I want to do an orange color. I think that's FF0066. Nope, that's pink. You know what? That's going to look really cool too. So now when I highlight something, it's got that pink color. I think that's pretty cool. When I highlight stuff, I don't think the black looks good against the pink. I want that to be white. So I'm just going to use the color property and say white. And suddenly when we highlight stuff, it is pink background, white foreground. I think that's pretty cool. Let's style this header though. So you'll recall in our HTML, we have the word header right here, right? That tag. That's what I'm going to style this time. So let's style it. Oh, wait. Yeah, no, we're good. We're good. Let's give it a background color of black. Ooh, look at that. See? Our text is black, so it's not really showing up there very well. unless we highlight it. So let's change that text to white. Color white. And let's make it small. I like the size. I don't like how it's bold though. So that's called the weight. We can say font weight, and we're gonna say 100. That is the smallest that you can make any font, the most thin you can make it. And that didn't work. Let's try font weight normal. See if that works. That didn't work either. Oh, duh. It's because we can change the color of this text, but if we want to modify like the weight itself, we're gonna have to refer to the h1 elements. So let's do that. Okay. Instead of putting that there, we're gonna have a h1, and we're gonna say font weight 100. And now it's much thinner text. Now I want this heading to be a bit thicker. I don't like how it's edge to edge right here. So we're gonna add something called padding to our header. We're gonna say padding is going to be, let's see here, we can put two values right now. We're gonna put value for y and value for x. Okay, y means anything up and down, so the value at the top and the bottom, and x means left and right. Okay, I don't want any padding on left and right because it's already filling up the screen. So for that, I'm going to put 0. But for the top and bottom, I want it to be maybe 8 pixels. So I'm going to write 8 px. Px stands for pixels. And suddenly, we got that giant header. It's awesome. I'm actually going to make that padding a little bit less, maybe 4. Yep, that looks pretty good. I like that a lot. And now we're going to style this thing, content. So you might remember our tag was called content. And I'm just going to give it a width of 600 pixels. I'm just making up arbitrary numbers, by the way. Okay. That's 600 pixels. Oh, let's give it a background color. Background color of white. Why is that not working? I'm gonna inspect my element really quick, see why that didn't do anything. All right, well, let us, because I have to tell it how to display the content element, I have to tell it how it's going to show up. Currently, it doesn't know how to show up on the page, so it's just letting everything do the body's default style. Okay, so the content, I have to give it a display property, and I have to tell it display in a block. A block means it can display stuff like this, item over item over item over item, instead of inline where everything would be next to each other, or displaying none where nothing displays. So I told it to display in a block, and now you can see it's over here to the left, because in body we set our text align to center, but a content block is not text, it's this box that you see. So if we want to center that, we're going to give it a margin. As you recall, a margin is spacing around an element, right? And I'm going to show you a little trick. Margin is going, so let's go to our content. We're going to give it a margin, and it's going to be the same as the padding that we set earlier. It takes a y value and an x value. I don't need it to have any spacing at the top, so I'm going to say 0 for the y value. But I want it to have equal spacing from the left and the right because I want it to be centered. So I'm going to say auto. That is going to make the browser calculate exactly how far to put it from the left and from the right. And it's centered. Let's give it some padding because I don't like the way this text is up against the top edge. All right, padding. Let's do the same thing as last time. 4px is 0. And there we go. That looks way better already. Let's see if there's anything we can change. Oh, these links. These links are so ugly. And you know what? I want them to look like buttons. So we're going to style our links right now. All right. So sometimes I write comments to myself in the CSS code. You just do it like that, /* and then * / to end it, right? And anything I put in here is not going to show up in my code at all, right? So right now I'm just going to write a note to myself, and sometimes I'll make it a little bit prettier, just adding extra stars just to make it look good. Let's see here. So style the links. See, just like that. Okay, so A, you'll recall, is for anchor tag. And the first thing I'm going to do, I want to get rid of that underline. I think that underline is ugly. So I'm going to say text decoration. I'm going to set it to none. And I refreshed, and now there's no underline there. All right, next thing. It's really ugly how they're blue, and it's even uglier how they turn purple after I click on them. So let's give them a color of black. There, now our links are black. Oh, and also, I don't want these bullets to show up in the bulleted list. Okay, so let's look at our code so I can show you what we're going to modify. Okay, this thing is down here. We have an unordered list. We have li list item, right? And that is where the bullets are showing up. So all I'm going to do here is I'm going to say, hey, unordered list. I want every single list item inside of you to have a list style of none. Oh wait, actually let me show you. So we currently have these round bullets, okay? Now we could have square bullets if we wanted. See? Or I'm sure there's different ones that I don't remember. List style. Oh, whatever. There's a bunch of them, but right now I want none because I don't want them to show up. So they're gone now. We're awesome. And let's make these things look like buttons. So I'm going to say A, display. I want it to display like a block. A displays like text by default, right? It's just a line of text. But I want it to look like a button, which means I need it to look more like this thing, right? Like a box or like a block. So I said display block because there's not such a thing as display box. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add margin to each one so that there's some spacing between them, right? So I'm going to say margin on the top and bottom. I want there to be 8 pixels. And on the left and right, I don't care. There's nothing to the left and right of these. So when I refresh now, nothing happened because what I'm forgetting is these A tags, they're actually inside of list item tags. So I actually have to give the margin to these things if I want there to be a difference. Why did I do that? Okay, there we go. So, okay, yeah, so I'm going to take away this margin 8px and put it here. Margin 8px and 0, so 8 pixels top and bottom, 0 pixels left and right. And now when I refresh, that didn't work because I have to make these display block also. Okay, now I'm at a loss. I'm not sure why that's not working. Let me figure this out really quick. So if I look at my code, margins aren't working. Oh wow. The reason it looked like it wasn't working is because the default margin it's using is already 8 pixels. Which I didn't know because I almost never give margins to these things, honestly. So let's make it a bigger margin. Let's make it 20 pixels top and bottom and 0 left and right. There we go. Now you see extra spacing going on here. And now I'm just going to add the sizing or I'm gonna add background color to each of these links. All right. So background color. Let's see here. You know what? That was a cool color, that pink we used earlier. But let's see if we got anything else. I'm just going to hover over it. Maybe choose a nice blue. That's pretty ugly, actually. There we go. This is going to be ugly as death. There we go. Okay, that actually doesn't look too bad. And let's make this text white. What I do? There we go. So if you recall, we've made it black up here. Let's make it white. Now you notice this awkward spacing on the left. Pretty sure that comes from the unordered list itself because it wanted to space them out so it could put those bullets in. So let's style that, right? The unordered list, UL. Let's just give it, I think it's padding on the left, and we'll just say 0. There we go. Now these are left to right, but I honestly don't want them to be like that. I want them to be kind of centered, right? So we can give a width to each of these. They will only be a certain number of pixels wide, so they won't go all the way from left to right. Okay, so each anchor tag is going to have a width of 200 pixels. And that's way too much. I'm going to say 150. Okay, and now I'm going to give them padding on the top and bottom because I don't like how the text is edge to edge right now. So I'm going to say padding, top and bottom is going to be 10 pixels, and left and right is going to be 0. And now I'm going to center these. Remember how we centered everything? Why do I keep doing that? We center it by giving it a margin of 0 for the top and bottom and auto for left and right. And now I want to round the corners a little bit just to give it a smoother feel. We're going to use something called border radius and just say 4 pixels. And that's just going to round the corners a little bit. Now you see we have some buttons, but you can't tell which one you're hovering over, can you? So we're going to use the hover property. All I have to do is do A:hover. Hover is a state, and it says when A is in the hover state, do a different thing. We're going to say background color is going to be, let's see here. Here's our current green, right? So let's find a darker shade of green for when it's hovered. There we go. That should be good. So now we can tell when we're hovering over something. That's pretty cool. Wow, this is actually looking pretty impressive. But let's not forget something I was going to show you earlier. We had our random shapes section where we have a div, a div, a div. You'll notice there's no content in any of these divs, so nothing is showing up. But I have to introduce you guys to classes. Like I said, a class is a grouping. Anything I write for a class is going to apply to everything in that class. So I could just say div and select all divs, right? Let's see here. I could say div, and then I can just say, I can put borders on every div. 1 pixel border, salt, dashed, black, right? I could do that. And that's going to put borders on my divs. But here's the thing. What if I go in my file somewhere and maybe I want to put a div around here, right? And maybe I want another one around here, just because I'm trying to lay stuff out better and keep stuff more contained, right? I would absolutely do something like that. And now suddenly we've got this random border right here and this border right here, and maybe like I don't actually want that, right? So if we're doing stuff like that, then instead of saying, well, to style the shapes, we need to select all divs, let's just make the shape class. So I'm going to say dot shape, and now instead of applying to all divs, it's going to only apply to divs that have class equal shape. See, now we're back here. So even though I have the other divs, only the shape ones are showing their borders right now, and that's good. I actually want it to be a solid border. But before that, let's say a shape should be displayed as an inline block. And I'm saying that because I want the shapes to appear next to each other, right? If this is a shape, and this is a shape, and this is the shape, and they're all in divs right now, then the browser is going to show them like that. But I want them to be side by side. Hey Google, shut up. That was my Google alarm. Okay, anyway, so I'm saying inline block. It's going to display them inline next to each other. And you can't see that right now. So let's give them a background color. Shape, background, color. Let's make it blue. Oh, and they don't have any width or height by default. So let's give them a width of 100 pixels and a height of 100 pixels. There we go. You see we have 3 squares. But if you'll recall, you know what? Let's actually put some content in these, just so we can tell them apart, okay? This one is a square, this one is a rectangle, and this one, there we go, is a circle. Alright, we got a square, a rectangle, a circle. That's great, but only one of these looks like a square. So, I say we should change the rectangle, right? Well, we should change them all. So instead of giving the width and height there, I just did that to show you, but there we go. See, now they're all rectangles. Let us look at what else we can do to style these. You'll see that we also have, this one has the class of shape, but it also has the class of square. This one has the additional class of rectangle, and this one has the additional class of circle. So, we're gonna make those. We have our square class, we have our rectangle class, and we have our circle class. If I want to make a square, I'm just going to tell her, be width 100 pixels, height 100 pixels. And suddenly, that is styled. These aren't because they don't have that class of square, okay? They have the class of rectangle. Now, if I gave it the class of square, oh, suddenly, we've got 2 squares. But that's not what we want, is it? We want that to have the class of rectangle, and it kind of already is, but I want it to be the same proportions as this thing, kind of. So we're going to make a rectangle now. It's going to be width of 100 pixels, so that they take up the same amount of space, but a height of 200 pixels. Check it. We now have a square right next to a rectangle, and we want a circle here. I want it to fit inside of here essentially, so it's going to still be 100 pixels in diameter. So it's going to have a width of 100 pixels and a height of 100 pixels. But remember how I showed you earlier when we rounded the corners? We can do that here. All I have to say is border-radius is 90 pixels. Just imagine we're saying cut it off with like 90 degrees. And we have our circle right there. We have a square, a rectangle, a circle. And actually, I'm going to change the background colors. I'm going to take it away from shape. And I'm going to say background color of square is red. Background color of rectangle is orange. Background color of circle is yellow. That's, I left a letter out right there. Right? We have our square, our rectangle, and our circle right there. Now I can take those little text labels out since we don't need them anymore. And there we go. Do you see how this works? Do you see how CSS is powerful? It works in laying stuff out. It works in putting stuff side by side, making stuff look really cool, changing colors, changing text. This was just a brief introduction. It took under 30 minutes. Let me know any questions you have. Like this video, subscribe, let me know in the comments, let me know in my Facebook group. I am trying to teach you the max you need to know. You have enough knowledge from the HTML lessons and from this CSS lesson to go forward and actually be doing web development. When I knew just this much that I've taught you, I was able to start working for very low-level clients and do freelance work that I was actually getting paid for. And that taught me more than anything else I've ever done and helped bring me where I am today. But yeah, thanks for watching. I will see you next time.